So what are the basics that it takes in order for you to really be able to get into Power BI? What's the absolute minimum you need to know about Power BI to determine whether or not Power BI is the right career path that you're looking to pivot into? Hey, that's the question I'm going to answer right now in Power of the BI. Welcome back to another video in the Power of the BI. Welcome back to another video in the Power of the BI. So today, real quick, I'm going to give you the very basics, the absolute minimums that I think you will need in order to be successful as you decide to take on Power BI as your new career journey, as a career journey, or as you decide to pivot into Power BI. So here's the deal. One thing you need to understand is, the first thing you need to understand is understanding the landscape of Power BI, understanding the landscape of Power BI. What does that really mean? What does understanding the landscape of Power BI really mean? That means what are the potential opportunities that are available to you when it comes to Power BI. So the first job that you will probably see when you go out there and you look out there on LinkedIn or Indeed and places like that, the job boards, you're out there looking for a job, you want to see, how much do these jobs really pay? What kind of job is really there? And is Tarai really telling me the truth in regards to how much money these jobs actually pay? So a common job title is data analyst. A common job title is data analyst. Now, a data analyst, a Power BI developer, they're pretty much one and the same. With that said, I'll digress just a little bit. A data analyst could be someone analyzing data in general, but for the most part, when you look at the job title and then you see the description, it'll say data analyst, and then it'll say, it'll give a description and tell you everything you need to have, and it'll say Power BI, blase, whoop-de-whoop. Bottom line is, one of the key job descriptions, key job titles for a Power BI developer is a data analyst. What does that mean? That means you're analyzing data. Okay, I'm not trying to be funny. That's actually what it means. It means you're analyzing data. It could be big data. When I say big data, I mean it could be, hundreds of millions of rows. Yeah, hundreds of millions of rows of data. Or it could be millions of rows of data. Or it could just be data in general, which could be, data that's in a spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet or something like that. But at the end of the day, just understand that data is data. Now, what is data? Data is just the information. So if you're used to working with Excel, or if you know anything about Excel, Excel is a spreadsheet. So just imagine working with a huge spreadsheet inside of Power BI. As far as the data analyst is concerned, you'll be analyzing the data. You'll be cleaning the data, going into Power Query. Not necessarily trying to go too deep into how to clean and exactly what Power Query is and all of that kind of stuff is right now. But just understand that a data analyst is one role that could be one of the roles that you would pick up as a new Power BI developer. And then, of course, as I just said, the Power BI developer. The Power BI developer is the person that develops the Power BI reports. Can you create Power BI reports without analyzing the data? No. Okay, so a Power BI developer is a data analyst, but a data analyst does not necessarily have to be a Power BI developer. Let me just be a little bit more clear. So let's say we've got another visualization tool, say Tableau. Tableau is another visualization tool, right? Very common in data analytics. Power BI and Tableau are probably the top two. They're actually my top two. I've worked some in Tableau, not as much as I have in Power BI, but they're my two top visualization tools if I had to make a choice, right? So you could actually be a data analyst because you could analyze the data that's inside of a Tableau report, and you could be a data analyst because you're analyzing data inside of a Power BI report. So you can be a Power BI developer and a data analyst, where a Power BI developer is a data analyst, a Tableau developer is a data analyst, but a data analyst does not have to be a Tableau developer. A data analyst could be a Power BI developer. So let me say it just a little bit slower just in case I confuse anyone. or confuse you, because anyone else really doesn't matter. A Power BI developer is a data analyst, but a data analyst does not have to be a Power BI developer. A data analyst could be a Tableau developer or a developer in some other visualization tool. I'll leave that there because I don't want to confuse you. I don't want to overcomplicate this thing. I don't want you to make it seem as if, you're probably already confused. You're trying to get the information to see if it's a good fit for you. And I'm just throwing out stuff and you're just like, yeah, blah, 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 blah. Now, let me go and just cut that out right now. But one more time, a Power BI developer is a data analyst, but a data analyst does not have to be a Power BI developer. So we talked about the data analyst. We talked about the Power BI developer. A data engineer, probably just I'm not going to say a step higher, but it's kind of in a different career trajectory when you're talking about a data engineer. At that point, a data engineer, I have had roles to where I was titled as a data engineer, and I did Power BI development. Now, just as with the data analyst, a Power BI developer can be a data engineer, but a data engineer is not necessarily a Power BI developer. But they could fall under synonymous titles when you're looking at job descriptions. You just got to kind of be careful when you're looking at job descriptions, right? What I mean by that is a data engineer does a little bit more than a Power BI developer. As a data engineer, the data engineer may go in on the backside and massage the data, maybe within the database, to bring the data into, so that the data would be more efficient being brought into Power BI. I don't necessarily teach the data engineering side within Power of the BI. Shameless plug, my course, powerofthebi.com, where I teach Power BI developers. I teach those individuals that want to learn Power BI, how to become Power BI developers. Anyway, so a data engineer, they're dealing more with the SQL coding side or whatever type of coding on the back end, right? They can go in and code with SQL within SQL Server Management Studio or any of the other databases, right? Now, with that said, they do work hand in hand. You will find sometimes a company will ask you they'll ask you engineering questions in the interview, or they'll tell you that the job is considered to be an engineering type role. What they won't tell you, you can get in your mind that the job is considered somewhat of an engineering type role, which means you'll be doing some engineering, some massaging of the data within the database, and then Power BI development. That's kind of why I push my students to, with my mentees, to starting out to only take the job somewhere that's averaging between $105,000 to $110,000, because the 115 is kind of a maybe, but once you get to the 120 role, the expectations are higher. And so this is a prime example. When I say expectations are higher, the expectations then become, not only are you a Power BI developer, but you can handle some of this data engineering as well. It's not going to be full scale data engineering, but you're going to be able to manage some of the data engineering. And what I want you to do is I want my mentees to get into the roles, those roles that are paying somewhere between $105,000 and $110,000 a year. Get into those roles first. Stick into those roles for about, I'm gonna say 4 to 6 months. Get a good feel for the organization and be working on your coding, your SQL coding. Again, you don't have to know a whole lot of SQL to be a good Power BI developer, but it does translate well when you can create DAX code. That's a whole nother conversation. But at the end of the day, where I'm going with that is the data engineer is doing more SQL coding and the Power BI developer is doing Power BI development, but you can get a job that has a description to where it's requiring you to do some data engineering along with some Power BI development. And those jobs, I wouldn't take one of those jobs for less than $120,000, right? That's not $105,000 to $110,000 job. That's a $120,000 job. But you have to get into the Power BI role in order for you to really understand the differences of what they're asking you. Otherwise, you could find yourself out there trying to do some things that you're really not prepared for. Power BI, the Power BI you're going to get, the Power BI development you're going to get in Power of the BI in my course, powerofthebi.com. You're going to be ready for the $105,000, $110,000 Power BI developer roles. You're going to be introduced to some of the things that you're going to need to know in order to be a data engineer or to function as a data engineer, but you're not going to have the true proficiency that you need to be a good data engineer and not have to fake it till you make it. So again, that's a whole other conversation, but those are roles that are commonly placed as Power BI roles. One other role is BI consultant, which is business intelligence consultant. Just like a data analyst, a BI consultant is pretty much almost one and the same, but a BI consultant can be a consultant that you could be working for a company, working for a consulting firm, and you're placed on a project with one of the company's clients, and then you're consulting, what should happen or what visualizations should be what visualizations they should be looking for within certain reports, or you may actually have to create Power BI reports as a BI consultant. Again, BI being business intelligence consultant. Since it's BI, that does not mean it has to be Power BI. Again, it could be Tableau. It could be any of the other visualization tools. So when you are applying for these positions, or when you get one of these positions, when you're looking at a position for a Power BI developer, if it only says BI consultant, you need to dive a little deeper to see if you see Power BI developer, if you see Tableau, if you see Click, because they're different. Power BI and Tableau are somewhat similar. Click is not as similar, but I think it's a little easier. And I think Tableau may even be not as complex when it comes to creating measures and stuff like that. But there are some measures in Tableau, but that's not what I talk about. I talk about Power BI here. So with that said, when you see a role and it says BI consultant, it could be a Power BI developer. And sometimes you may go into an interview for a BI consulting role. I've done it before. Trust me, I've done it before. I've gone into an interview for a BI consulting role, and of course I wanted to be a Power BI role, but I was willing to take it on as a Tableau role. It just depended on how the company wanted the role. But at the end of the day, they asked me, hey, how do you feel? What do you think is the best thing for the organization based on what we've given you in this interview? And of course, my response is, well, I definitely believe that Power BI is the way to go because, Microsoft, is the leading software developer when it comes to business, consulting, and development, and things like that. So I just shot them all to BS and, hey, I ended up with that role, ended up with that position, getting the role, and bringing Power BI to the organization. So, just get that. Those are what I would consider to be the initial pieces of the landscape that you would need to definitely have some idea of what you're looking for. But at the end of the day, if I were you, coming out of Power of the BI, I'm definitely looking for Power BI developer roles. Data analyst is okay. Business analyst is okay. Sometimes they'll call it a Power BI consultant. Who knows? But the data engineering piece, I highly suggest coming out of powerofthebi.com that you stick around with the current job for anywhere from, I'm gonna say 4 to 6 months. A year would be solid for you to be on the job as a Power BI developer and working on, not even working on the side, but, in your off time, working on your engineering skills. And the engineering skills is primarily just working on SQL. So that's what that looks like. The core concepts of everyday Power BI professional, the core concepts that an everyday Power BI professional must master. Data modeling. So the main thing you need to know about data modeling is Power BI is built on the star schema. What does that mean? There's going to be typically one table, and let's say you have 4 tables. There's going to be one table, and then the other tables are going to have spokes or have relationships off of that one table. So that one table is going to be related to each one of those tables. Say that it's 5 tables. Then what I like to do when I create my data models, I like to actually take that one table that I'm going to use to be at the center of my star schema, and I like to place place the other 4 tables or the rest of the tables around that one table that's going to be in the middle, and then at the center, and then I like to create relationships between each one. I create relationships between each one. And basically, it's just like a bicycle having that centerpiece, and then you got the rim around it, and then you got the spokes. That's what for me, that's what the star schema looks like, right? It doesn't. You don't have to, actually show that particular diagram, but that's what makes it easier for me to understand that this table is going to be at the center of the star, and at all of these other tables are going to be related to this table, because it's at the center of the star. I'm going to turn down just a little bit because it seems like I've broken the red there on my volume. So I'm just going to bring that down just a little bit. Something else you're going to need to know when it comes to being a good professional Power BI developer, and that's DAX, right? So I'm not going to tell you that Power BI is no coding. Power BI is low to no coding. It's low to no coding. I've got friends that have been working in Power BI for a long, long time, and they don't do any coding. I've got friends that's been working in Power BI for a long, long time, and that all they do is coding. But the coding that we use in Power BI is called DAX. The coding that we use in Power BI is called DAX. It's DAX, Data Analytics Expression. Now, with that said, what do we do with DAX? Basically, we create measures, we create calculated columns, we do everything we need to do with DAX. We allows us to create custom visualizations. It allows us to create custom visualizations. That's the primary difference between Power BI and some of the other data visualization tools. Some of the other data visualization tools don't necessarily give you the ability to create, to get too custom with your visualizations, whether it be color schemes, whether it be calculations. DAX allows you to do all of that, adding extra columns, column tables, being able to talk to other tables. DAX allows you to be able to do all of that. So you do learn DAX in Power BI. We don't go super deep. I give you what you need to know. I give you what you need to know, and I tell you, you need to go out there and get everything else, right? In 4 months, you're not going to learn everything you need to know about any tool. You're not going to learn everything you need to learn about any tool, but you're going to have more than the basics. You're going to have more than the basics coming out of PowerBI.com in order to be successful in Power BI and to be successful in creating DAX measures and DAX columns and all of that stuff. So what I want you to understand is, I'm not going to tell you that there is no coding in Power BI. I'm not going to tell you that there is no coding in Power BI. I'm going to tell you that it's low to no coding. You can get a job that has no coding. You can get a job that has very little coding, and you can get a job that requires a pretty good amount of coding. But you're not gonna be stuck out there. I'm going to give you the secrets. I'm not going to hold anything back when it comes to PowerBI.com. Visualizations, best practices. Visualization best practices. Understanding the one rule. Ooh, something got in my eye. Not necessarily one rule, but the one thing that I like to stick by when it comes to creating a great Power BI report, and that's making my Power BI report look and feel like a website. I want my Power BI report to look and feel like a website. So when somebody logs in and somebody sees the report within an organization, they're looking at something that they feel like, oh, this could be a website, or this is a website, or how do I get to the website? What's the URL? It's very important that the aesthetics of your Power BI report are on point, and that you are providing a great piece of work so that individuals that see it, it's not looking sloppy. It's not looking like something that a 3 or 4 year old has colored outside the lines of a coloring book, and the lines that are not lined up accordingly, or you don't have any type of design schematic to where it's giving you a feel of it being a website. That is super duper important when it comes to a Power BI report. The Power BI ecosystem beyond the desktop. The Power BI ecosystem beyond the desktop. So pretty much everything that you're going to create is going to be inside of Power BI desktop. It's going to be on Power BI desktop. If you do not have Power BI right now, you can go out to Microsoft.com. I would say this. You can go over to Google. You can search Power BI desktop, and probably the first 1 or 2 returns is going to give you the Power BI desktop download, and you can just go straight to that link, and you can download Power BI desktop to your computer, and you'll have Power BI desktop on your computer when you get that once you finish downloading and installing that program. However, Inside of Power BI Desktop, you will also be able to create the mobile version. You're able to create the mobile version of your report, because sometimes, you have individuals that are out in the field, on the airplane, wherever they may be, walking down the sidewalk, coming in the office, in an office somewhere, but not necessarily having access to their desktop. They're on their phone, they're on their mobile device. They can access your report. Once you publish it, they can access it from their mobile device. So you have access to creating the mobile version of it. In addition to outside of the desktop version, as I said, you will be able to publish that report, and individuals will be able to access it from their computer, from their laptop, or from their mobile device. Well, in order to get it there, it has to be published, and it goes out to Power BI service. It goes out to Power BI service, or sometimes we call it PowerBI.com. Sometimes we call it Power BI service. But at the end of the day, that's where it'll be, and you can also make changes and enhancements to the report that you create once you upload it to Power BI service. Once you place it in the service, you'll create a workspace for it. It'll go to your workspace, and then you can create an app from the workspace. So now you've got the desktop version, you've got it out on Power BI service. You can create an app, and then you can create a dashboard. It's all types of things you can do once you get it out to Power BI service. I don't necessarily recommend you making changes from the online version, because the online version is not as robust as the desktop version. You can make changes, you can make some updates, but you're not going to be able to do everything that you can do inside of Power BI desktop version. Gateways and data flows. I'm not going to go too deep into gateways and data flows. I'm not going to go too deep into gateways and data flows. Just understand that these are just other ways that you can make your Power BI data and data sets more efficient and accessible using data flows. And the gateway is the connection between the internet and whatever you're accessing. For instance, there could be an on-prem gate. Your data could be on-prem. So you'll need what's called on-prem is premise, at the facility, at the site, on location. So you want that data. Of course, Power BI is a web-based service, Azure-based service, using Microsoft Fabric these days. Not forever, not since forever, but now we're using Microsoft Fabric as the primary host for Power BI. That's a whole nother conversation. Not going to get too deep into Fabric right now. We will talk about Fabric in my class, powerbi.com, shameless plug. Check it out. But if you have your computer server on site and you need to get that data out to the web, there has to be a gateway. There has to be a gateway connection. That's what the term gateway is being used for. So then that gateway will be set up. It's long story short, it's pretty simple. I can say simple. You'll make the connection based on some of the information from the server on site and your server out on Azure, where your Azure-based URL, and then the data from on site will be able to go to Power BI service, right? And then you can bring that data back into your desktop so that you will be able to access that data and create data visualizations and dashboards and reports and stuff like that. I don't want to go too deep into that, because that's something that you probably will not have to do, because that's more of an IT person that would make that gateway connection. I was put in a position where I did have to create a gateway very early on in my career, but that was when even the IT guys didn't really have a clue as to what was going on with Power BI and the gateways and all that kind of stuff. So we were all learning together. Now, I also have a 90-day roadmap to Power BI. I got a 90-day roadmap. Some of the things that you need to do in order to be ready to get yourself ready for Power BI. Days 1 through 30, learn the fundamentals, interfaces, visuals, and simple DAX. Days 1 through 30, learn the simple visuals, learn the fundamentals, the interface, and the simple DAX with visuals. That's a matter of downloading that Power BI desktop and just playing with it. You're not going to learn this thing without playing with it. The only way to learn Power BI is to get it, download it, and start building reports. They're not going to be good. You're going to make mistakes, and a lot of times you're not going to know what you're doing. That's why you're going to want to come over to powerbi.com, powerofthebi.com. That's why you're going to want to come over to powerofthebi.com so that you can learn the things that you need to know, definitely the fundamentals and simple DAX and how to utilize the different visuals. Days 31 through 60, build your first real world dashboard project and document it. Again, 31 through 60, you haven't been working with this thing that long. It's not going to be a super great project, but it's going to be something that you need to do in order to start getting comfortable and familiar with the different tools getting familiar with the tool of Power BI and the different components that'll help you create a dynamic report. 31 through 60, you're building out that Power BI report. Days 61 through 90, create your Power BI portfolio. So now, not only are you just creating one project, now you're creating several projects for your portfolio. Okay, that's what I suggest. You're starting to build out your own portfolio. Of course, the more projects you build, the more time you have in learning, the more time you have in playing with Power BI, the better you're going to get. Okay, so I definitely suggest that be what you do in order to become proficient with Power BI within the first 1 to 90 days. Now, with that said, Power BI is a Microsoft product, but I do not work for Microsoft. I do not get paid from Microsoft, and they are currently not a sponsor of this particular video. That's currently as of the day that I'm recording now. Who knows? Someone from Microsoft may give me a call and say, "Hey T, I'm interested in, or we're interested in. Would you be interested?" In my answer, if everything goes well, it's probably yes. So I don't want to mislead anyone. I don't want to mislead anyone and say that we're sponsored by Microsoft, and I don't want to mislead you and say that we're not. What I'm saying is, as of the recording of this video, we're not. I'm just being transparent so that you don't think that I'm just giving you a bunch of fluff on Microsoft to make you go out there and spend money on Microsoft products. In addition to all of these things that's dealing with Power BI, one thing you must have in order to create a desktop report for the desktop version of Power BI, Microsoft Power BI, you must have a PC. You must have a PC. It does not work. The desktop version, as of the recording of this video, as of the day of the recording of this video, Power BI does not work. Or you're not able to download Power BI on any other type of operating system as of the recording of this video. You can make changes and edits, as I said before, once you have your report published out to Power BI service. You can make changes to the report and edits out in service, and it doesn't matter what operating system you're using, because at that point it's out in the cloud. But again, I don't suggest that you make your changes and edits in the cloud. I suggest you make your changes and edits in the report and then you publish to server. But that is a whole other piece. So if you like what you've seen, like this video, subscribe to this channel. It really helps me be able to provide you with better information. It gives me some idea of what type of information you're looking for. So if you don't mind, like this video and subscribe to this channel. With that said, that is all I have for this particular video. Thank you for joining in, and I look forward to seeing you again in the next video.